are a member-based industry organization focused on supporting the growth of car sharing worldwide. Our mission is to support car sharing organizations and the mobility ecosystem to promote the shift from personal and fleet-owned vehicles towards a shared modality, creating a more positive social, financial, and environmental impact on the world. So we provide active forums for discussion, education, and networking opportunities through our webinars. We have a resource library, and we represent car sharing at different mobility conferences and committees. And our marquee event, which is our conference, we hold every 18 months, which is fantastic. But speaking about our conference, we're supposed to be in Vancouver right now. But like everybody else, we had to postpone, and we're going to postpone till April. So keep an eye out. Make sure that you make a budget line for that next year. Hopefully, we'll all be traveling, so it's going to be in April. So slot that time in, and perhaps a budget line for that. We felt that it was important that we started this award, and we didn't want to cancel that. So we decided that we would continue with this award because it was important enough to remind us and our cities that car sharing is really the only proven mode of transportation that reduces personal use vehicles, of course, along with mass transit. And we also wanted to make sure that the multimodal approach, so we can create as many options for residents and have best practice for the future of mobility, especially during this time. And so we also felt it was very important to acknowledge and reward and learn from the leading cities that we're recognizing tonight. They value car sharing ecosystems in their city, and we want to appreciate them. We want to celebrate these leaders and encourage other cities to reach out to them, and for the leaders to share their policies and their innovations with cities who aspire to be the top of and at best practice. We also have an important report coming from this event. The report is called The 5 Foundational Car Sharing Policies for Every City. It's going to be the new Bible. I'm sure that it will become a huge resource for every city and every practitioner. The whole idea of this award is to encourage the sharing of ideas, policies, bylaws, and everything else so cities don't have to start from scratch. The video from tonight will also be available, and the report and the link for the video will be sent out to all attendees tonight, and will be on our website for everybody to use and share as well. So I want to thank Louisiana for being the MC tonight. A big shout out to my friend Mary Lou Landry, who did the design for the awards. I also want to thank the jurors. We're going to thank them later as well, but a personal thank you from me. And I also want a special thank you for Sandra Phillips from Move Me from Vancouver, who is basically the amazing leader for this process. So back to you, Louisiana. Enjoy the evening.
Thanks, Pam. It's a pleasure. So moving on with our event, I'm very happy to introduce and especially thank the judges who did remarkable work for this award. So judges, if you don't mind, please, when I introduce you, could you please wave to the camera so also the people who are watching can recognize you in the middle of all these little cameras? So thank you in advance. So I will start with Arndt Batzner, who is a transport researcher and a director of mobility car sharing in Switzerland. Hi, Arndt. Then we have Pam Cooley, who we already know. Hi, Pam. And Nico Gabriel, a transport executive responsible for mobility operations at Sixt. Are you there, Nico? Ooh, sorry, I can't see on my cameras, but yeah, I hope you are. Scott Levine, a transportation planner jointly appointed at Sanya New Paltz and Imperial College of London. Hi, Scott. Tim Papandreou, a key strategic advisor to companies and governments on transport trends and founder of Emerging Transport Advisors. Hi, Tim. And finally, Sandra Phillips, a leader in shared mobility issues or an architect of shared mobility, who is the CEO and founder of MoveMe, the organization co-hosting this event, and also our next speaker. So for now, we to retrieve the waving and the applause, can we all applaud the judges for the work they have done in the camera? Thank you so much. So to follow again this energy, I'll hand over to Sandra Phillips to tell us more about this award. And she's talking to us from Vancouver, Canada.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Louisiana, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me and being part of this award. I'm delighted. And I know you're all dying to find out who the winners are, so we'll keep this part as short as possible and jump right into the methodology. So in January this year, we opened the call for nominations, and there were two ways you could nominate a city. You could self-nominate, or, and a lot of operators did that, you could nominate the city you're operating in. At the same time, we conducted expert interviews with 8 organizations. So from Zipcar, Ubico, CityHop, AMO, eCar, ShareNow, and Cities, the people that we interviewed had collectively experience of operating in over 130 markets. We used that insight and devised the questions that the judges were using to evaluate the nominations, and they can really be grouped in 3 categories. The first one is vision and leadership. So what does your city have for transportation plans, urban land use plans, and how is car sharing embedded in that? The second one is how did those plans translate into a very clear, actionable policy framework? And then the third one is how do these policies translate into ease of use for me as a member of a car share organization and for the long-term viability of the car share operators? The last month, the judges have spent looking at 27 nominations. So we got nominations from Santiago, Chile, down to Melbourne, Australia. We had 2 from India, 3 from the Middle East, and the bulk came from North America and Europe. We reviewed them, we narrowed them down to the top 5, and then the winners. And again, I know you're dying to get into that, but we'll dive into kind of the top 5 policies that we learned from this entire process that could help you and your city to increase its car share capacity. So the very first one, before I dive into that, I just want to do another thank you to McLean Hallmark Gateway Insurance Group. If we can do the jazz hand one more time. Thank you so much for sponsoring the report. And then also Marie-Lou Laundry, who designed these beautiful award icons, and the cities that were finalists or winners will get these icons and can use them on their material and websites. So let's move into policy number 1. One of the interviews that I had, the person told me, if I had a genie in a bottle and one wish that was granted to increase car share capacity, I would remove every single personally owned vehicle from the city center. Now, obviously, we can't do that. But some of the finalist cities have done remarkable work around that, increasing the hurdles. And one simple way, I know it's not as simple as it sounds, but one simple way was what Bergen did. They increased the parking restriction and increased the cost for residents that want to park on street. Because really, I do not need to store 4 of my personally owned vehicles on your city streets, right? Another very popular approach is creating pedestrian zones, or in the case of Madrid, a restricted access zone. They implemented that in 2018 for all vehicles. And the interesting thing is car share vehicles can be parked for free in that zone. So what they did is kind of a carrot and a stick approach, right? Make it harder for personally owned vehicle, make it easier for alternative modes to access that zone. So policy number 2 is the one that probably every single operator will say is the most crucial one to get car share up and running. And that's a comprehensive parking framework. I'm giving a big shout out to my home city, which is Vancouver, which probably has one of the most comprehensive car share parking frameworks. And certainly in all the nominations, they have the most comprehensive one. So as a member, I can essentially park my car share vehicle in residential parking zones, because there are special permits that car share operators can obtain from the city. I can also leave it in a 2-hour restricted zone or even at meters. They also have the ability, or the car share operators have the ability to obtain on-street reserved parking stalls. So they can identify a spot, and then it's exclusively reserved for their car share vehicles. And then the last piece, which is one that Vancouver is not the only one, but very unique, is an incentive for developers to reduce regular parking stalls by adding car share spaces. And the ratio is 1 to 5. So if a developer puts 1 car share space in, they can remove 5 other spaces, and that's a cost saving of 5,000 Canadian dollars approximately per stall. Now, another city I want to give a shout out, and they're also on the finalist list, is the city of Ljubljana. I have never seen in my entire career, 10-year career in this space, a city that has entered into a 20-year partnership with the car share operators. And that includes the development of 100 new parking spaces. You have to think Ljubljana is a different city than Vancouver, right? It's an older city. Curbside is very coveted. So finding 100 spaces is quite an accomplishment and a commitment. Now, the flip side of this parking policy is the third policy. We have to make sure that parking framework is also affordable. One of the most cited reasons why car share operators leave a city is cost of parking. Margins are generally very thin, and high cost of parking make or break an operator. And I'm giving another shout out to a Canadian city, Calgary. They used to have Car2Go in their city, and Car2Go left in the last fall, before the mass exodus of Car2Go from North America. And the reason they cited was cost of parking. And I'm quite impressed what Calgary has done in the last couple of months. They revamped their entire parking framework with a specific lens on cost. And one of the interesting things I think they did is they created discounts, a tiered discount system depending on the neighborhood where the car share vehicle is parked. So in the downtown, it's more expensive than in areas where there's transit deserts, and they want to encourage more alternatives. I will say pretty much every single city that made it onto the finalist list had a discounted, or in some cases even free, parking privileges for car share providers. And I'm going to point out Munich, which has created a 2-tier system where free-floating vehicles have a different rate than station-based. Now, the fourth policy is really about thinking of car sharing as part of a larger ecosystem. What you want to create is alternatives, and really public transit is the backbone of that, but alternatives to moving around without having to own your own vehicle. And I think the one thing everybody jumps to is, let's create the MaaS, the Mobility as a Service app that connects all these offers. But there's other ways that, the finalist cities have done this. And one of the very simple ways that I really like is what Lisbon has done. They actively promote on their website anything from car share, bike share, kick scooter share, moped share, microtransit. And so when I moved to Lisbon, or when I visited, I have a very easy way of finding all the options that the city supports. Now, Bremen is probably the thought leader in a concept called Mobilpunkt, like mobility hubs where you co-locate car share vehicles with public transit. So in their case with buses, and you make sure that they're easily accessible by bike or on foot. Now, the very last policy, and then you're almost back to getting into, who is the winning city, is one that really for me was the big aha moment during this entire process. A lot of the finalist cities have something called a mobility management program, or in North America, we often group them or categorize them under transportation demand management measures. And one of the cities that I love that has had this for years is the city of Paris. They have a mobility plan to decrease the carbon footprint of their own staff commuting to work. And they've had this since 2011. And their staff can use alternatives, from car sharing to bike sharing to public transit, any other modes essentially except their own vehicle. The interesting thing is, at the beginning of this year, France implemented this mobility management plan statewide. And now every employer over 100 employees has to have a strategy of decreasing commuting by personally owned vehicle. In North America, the city that probably has done most work around this is Seattle. They have a comprehensive plan that manages growth, so the economic growth of their city without increasing commuting by single occupancy vehicle. In fact, they have an organization that is dedicated to that called Commute Seattle that works, with city, with public transit, and with major employers in the region to reduce that. And the numbers that Commute Seattle puts out speak for themselves. So while Seattle has increased the number of jobs in the downtown core between 2011 and 2019, so within 8 years, by 90,000 jobs, so 90,000 jobs, they have decreased commuting in single occupancy vehicle by 9%. So if you're a city or working in a city that you think, well, they could increase their car share capacity a little bit, we would highly recommend that you do not recreate the wheel. There's a couple of easy ways that you can have access to information. One is, Pam already mentioned, you get a video recording and a top 5 policy report after this ceremony. Also, we have 27 alumni cities and 10 finalist cities that do car share really well or support it really well. Reach out to them. They're happy to share. They're happy to share the obstacle and the challenges as well, I'm sure. And then the last thing, stay in touch. Join the CSA, sign up for MoveMe's newsletter. Both have great resources. And I hope to see you all at the 2021 CSA conference. And now I'll hand back to Louisiana for the finalist announcement.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Okay, just 2 quick reminders before we start. Please, can you tell us where you're from on the chat? And if you can, at least for the clapping, turn your cameras on so we can see you clapping. And we want to take an audience picture in the middle of the way. So whenever we are announcing the winners, we would like to have everybody like this. So please, of course, if you feel comfortable. But then thank you so much in advance. And so now the moment we've all been waiting for, and I wish I had the drums rolling here. So let's go to the finalists and winners, and we will start announcing the regional category first, and then we move on to the metropolitan. So Leanne, can you please change the slide? Because I want to announce the finalist cities for the regional category. Thank you very much. So we have the first city is Bergen, then Ghent, then Lisbon, Bremen, and Ljubljana. So these are the top regional cities in our category of this award. So I'll hand over to Pam to announce the results and the winner. Thank you, Pam.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited about this. Okay, so if everybody would please put their cameras on, as long as, maybe you're in your pajamas, I don't know, but because I know that some of you are very, very late. But I'm going to go through them, and I'd like to do a congratulations to each one of the finalists. And I'm going to go from 5th to 4th to 3rd and then to the winner. So just so you know. So after each one, I would like everybody to do clapping, I think, whatever this is. Okay, so for the 5th place of the regional, we're going to be doing the regional ones first, of course, is Lisbon, Portugal, number 5. Everybody. And then number 4 is Bremen, Germany. Woohoo! Thank you. 3rd place is Bergen, Norway. Woohoo! Well, congratulations. And so I'm gonna go for the winner because then you'll know who's in 2nd place. So the winner is Ghent, Belgium. Congratulations. Woohoo! So we're going to have Flip Watillo to present have some information from the winner, Ghent, the city. Welcome, Philip.
Okay. Good evening. I try to share my presentation.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very honored, and I'm very excited to participate in this award ceremony. The competition is very strong. I admire cities as Ljubljana and Bremen, and then to be a winner is really incredible. I think I would like to thank our city departments. I would like to thank Autodelen.net. It's a Belgian organization, and above all, I want to thank the car sharing companies. What happened in Ghent? Moment. The success of car sharing in Ghent is a part of a broad strategy with several plans. We have a mobility plan, a sustainable mobility plan, a circulation plan, a parking plan, a bicycle plan, and so on and so on. What happened is that the share of cars in the modal split in Ghent decreased from 65% in 2012 to about 40% now. And we have a huge increase of cyclists, but also a real success of car sharing in the city. It started before I became a deputy mayor. In 2004, there was the first introduction of reserved parking spaces for shared cars, but it was really modest. In 2007, there was the introduction of parking permits for car sharing, and that means that there was free parking for shared cars, and that's totally different to the normal cars. So that was the modest start. I became a deputy mayor in 2013, and it was one of the first things I did was to make a trip to Bremen. I've seen that Michael Glotz Richter is here and Rebecca Carbomer, and we looked at what they did with mobiliteitspunten. And so we learned a lot of them, and we started to develop also a strategy for car sharing. In 2015, we had about 4,000 car sharers. At the start of my deputy mayor, as a deputy mayor, it was about 2,500. In 2015, we had 200 shared cars and 85 reserved parking spaces. As you see, afterwards, in 2016, we made a car sharing plan with huge ambitions. And as you see, there is a real increase of car sharers. There's a real increase of reserved parking spaces, and there's a real increase of parking permits. We have, for the moment, 13,000 car sharers, and the ambition is to have 25,000 car sharers in 2025. What have we done? We have now measures, and that's very normal what we did there. Same licensing framework for all types of car sharing. We have car sharing hubs. We have the proximity of bike racks and public transport to that car sharing hubs. We have reserved parking at public charging stations. We do the funding of what car sharers have to pay, €35 for every new car sharer. We have a budget of 50,000 euro a year to promote car sharing. And also we have what I also saw in other cities, we have incentives for developers to reduce regular parking by adding car share stalls. So, and also very important, our city employees use shared car as a service vehicles. So the ambition is still 25,000 car shares in 2025, 500 reserved parking spaces we already reached. So what we also do is supporting e-car sharing. We have about 15% of the shared cars are electric. Partago and Batmobile, that are car sharing organizations, are 100% electric. We have Cambio, that's the biggest car share organization in Ghent, is 5% electric. So, but we try to support it. 43% of all e-parking spaces are reserved for shared cars. And we have funding of 4,500 euro for every shared electric car. What are the challenges? Yeah, one of the biggest challenges is to reserve parking spaces, because there's a real pressure of parking pressure. The residential parking, people try to hold their own parking spaces, but we want to reserve parking spaces for station-based car sharing. Another challenge, really very important, is to reach new target groups. We want to reach also social vulnerable groups, and that's not so easy. We want to also have car sharing in the outskirts of the city, where car ownership is higher and where there is a lower density of people, and so it's more difficult to have shared cars there available. So that's one of the new challenges. So what's next? I already said it, 25,000 car sharers in 2025, 1,000 reserved parking spaces in 2025, and so I think car sharing in Ghent needs to be a success also in the next years. Thank you for your attention.
So everyone clap. Thank you so much, Flip, for your presentation, and thank you everybody for clapping. Congratulations to Ghent and to all the other cities, and it's very impressive to see all the initiatives. So we will see how we go with time, and we will start now a discussion, and we might open to the floor for questions. We will let you know as it goes. But first of all, I would like to start with some questions for Flip. Can you all hear me well? Just to check. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Okay. So, Flip, could you please develop a little bit more on the issue of the actors involved in the governance or all the development of car sharing in Ghent, because it's very impressive. There are some advocate institutions there, and I saw on the chat that some people were congratulating them as well, like Autodel and Taxi Stop and all the operators. So could you please develop a little bit more and tell us how the relationship is with these actors?
Sorry, I can't hear you. I didn't understand your last question.
Hi. No, it's okay. So can you please tell us a bit more? Are you listening? Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So in Ghent, there is a special characteristic because there are many advocates for car sharing in the city and in the region. And I was wondering if you could develop a little bit more for us and tell us more about how this relationship is with the city and how one helps each other, especially to understand each other's sides in the development of car sharing and any. Did you hear now?
Yeah, but it's a difficult question because it's not so. It's really complex. It's growing every day. It's changing every day. What we try to do is with the city of Ghent, we try to be an example for our inhabitants, and that's really important. What we try to do is also the administration, the departments try to share cars and try to have a really sustainable mobility. For example, 85% of our employees is coming to their work with on a sustainable manner, 85%. And by using shared cars, we show to other organizations that car sharing is really important. So what we also try to do, second line, is we have a good collaboration with car share organizations. They are private, they are very different. There are several organizations, they are very different. And we try to have really on a regular basis contacts with them. So also we try to give them not the impression, because it's real like that, that they are part of the total sustainable strategy. If we have a decrease of cars in Ghent from 65% to 40% in the modal split in about 6-7 years, it's also because they are part of it, and that's really important. Luciana, is that an answer to your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You also touched another topic that I wanted to talk about, and the fact that the city can give an example and also use car sharing as a fleet, because this is a good way to support as well and develop car sharing systems. So thank you for bringing that up as well. And I had a chance to visit your beautiful city, and I could see the impressive initiatives, and I was also impressed with the development of the policy for car sharing. And could you please tell us about what was behind, or what was the goal also for the car sharing action plan, or a little bit about the process of developing this governance and the policies?
But what was the goal of the car sharing plan? To be successful as a city in car sharing, but what is really the goal is to have quality of life in Ghent. So the moment I became a deputy mayor for mobility, everything we did, the parking plan, the circulation plan, the bike infrastructure, the car sharing initiatives, it's all because we want to be a city with a high quality of life. That's the only part. It's not about to have fewer cars. It's about quality of life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. And can you please tell us a bit more? Can you hear me? Because I think there was a little bit of cut on the audio. Can you hear me, Philip? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
So can you please tell us a bit more about how you thanks. Can you please tell us a bit more about how you monitor and check if your goals of the city are being achieved with these car sharing policies and all the measures?
Maybe the first thing, when we presented the car sharing plan, I defined the goal for car sharing as to have 20,000 car sharers in 2020. We didn't reach that, but I knew at that moment we wouldn't reach it. But it sounded very good, and that's also very important to have 20,000 car shares in 2020. And so I explained always that it's especially important to have really an increase of car shares. If it's 17,000 or 13,000 or 20,000 is not as important. It's important that the increase is going on. So we have a cooperation with Autodelen.net. It's a car sharing organization to count car sharers. The goals we have, it's very easy to measure them. Reserved parking spaces is very easy. So we try to have the numbers, the counting every 3 months to have to see what is happening. So it's not so difficult, and it's part of the total sustainable strategy. But it's not so difficult. It's just counting. Is that an answer to your question, or did I say something totally wrong?
No, thank you. Yes, because this monitoring process is always a challenge for cities to develop or to design the one that's going to really tell to the planners or to decision makers how car sharing is working in the city and how it's helping the city to achieve the goals. So if you have also the institutions that can help you, like in the case of Ghent, that's very, very a win-win situation, and when you can work together. So thank you for answering. And
maybe Luciana, maybe the last thing I want to say about the success in Ghent is what's incredibly important is the speed we had in implementing things. It's really important. I know some people say you have to take small measures, step by step, little steps. I don't agree. You have to have a real good vision, ambitious, and you have to take speed. It's very important. People have to see the results they have to see the results very fast. Okay.
Thank you for your contribution to this. And okay, there's another issue which is very important also, is the awareness about car sharing in within the planners or the decision makers. And this seems to be a factor of success in Ghent as well. So can you please tell us more about this? Do you use car sharing? Are you a member, or how is it for you and your team?
Yes, I'm a member of a car sharing organization. I don't have a car. I'm a deputy mayor, and many people think that the deputy mayor needs to have a car. I don't have one. I'm a member of a car sharing organization, and I have a cargo bike also. So and it's incredible. It's fantastic. I don't have troubles with insurance or with maintenance. It's the only thing I have to think about is when I need a car to reserve it and to use it. That's the only thing I have to think about. And I think it's crazy if people who don't need a car and they live in the city, it's crazy that they have a car. It's really crazy because car sharing is such a fantastic system. So I'm really glad we got rid of our car about half a year ago when my wife stopped as an architect, and it's one of the fact we are a member of a car sharing organization is really good.
That's very nice. Great example you're giving. You're living the life you're preaching for.
Yeah, but that's very important. People, I'm a deputy mayor, and people know me in Ghent, and they see me as a deputy mayor in Ghent with a bike, or if I go with the car with the car of car sharing organization. So normally I use public transport. So that's really very important that the politicians give an example on this.
Yes, congratulations to that. So we don't have much time, but just one last issue, please. You mentioned the challenges and how you're trying to address to reach the outskirts of the city with car sharing and try to complement the system. Could you please tell us more about what's happening, in which stage you are at this process now, or also because some other cities might be going through the same difficulties or challenges, let's say.
We are planning it. We are not really, we don't have results yet, but we are planning it. What we think about is that the car sharing organization are very interested in the reserved parking spaces, and they are interested in the parking spaces in the dense city, in the center of the city. What we think to do is that we will give them their parking spaces in the center of the city on one condition: if they take a car to the outskirts. So they can have parking spaces in the center of the city if they are also in the outskirts of the city, present in the outskirts of the city.
Okay, sorry, there was a bit of a cut on the audio, but thank you so much, Philip. Could you also please talk about the incentives, not just the financial ones, to increase EVs in Ghent, electrical vehicles?
It's a difficult one because in Belgium Belgium is a very small country, but it's very complex. And something we don't have in our own hand is the charging points. We can't implement them or realize them in ourselves in the streets. So we have to have a cooperation with other organizations, and it's really it's difficult to have results. But that's one of the points. If you want to have electric cars, you have to have charging points, and so that's one of the things that we try to invest in. Also, you have seen the funding, but I think the most important thing is charging points.
Yes. Thank you, Philip. There was a little bit of a cut on my audio as well, but thank you so much. So again, congratulations to Ghent. I think for time issues, we're going to have to move on. We're going to open afterwards for questions from the audience. And I ask you to applause and congratulate Ghent for me with the hand. Thank you so much. So now we are going to move on with to the new other category, which is the new finalists and winners, the metropolitan category. And I can you all see the slides just to check? Because I think I can.
Yeah. We're good.
Yeah?
Yep,
Okay.
let's go.
Okay, sorry, just yeah, so please let's go to the announcement of the finalist cities of the metropolitan category. So Milan, Munich, Vancouver, we have a tie here, Madrid and Paris, and Calgary. So congratulations to all, and I'll hand over to Pam to announce the results.
More questions hopefully at the end with you. So the Metropolitan Award. So I'm going to go again from 5 down to 1. All right. Everybody have their cameras on so we can do clapping. That would be wonderful. Thank you. So in 5th place, we have Calgary, Canada. Woohoo! Congratulations, Calgary. In 4th place, we have the tie between Madrid, Spain, and Paris, France. These will not be surprises for most people, I think. And we have number 3, Vancouver, Canada. Congratulations. And the winner is, can you guess? Milan, Italy. Congratulations, Milan. We have Elena Sala, who is going to present for the city of Milan. Thank you for joining us, Elena. Elena is the Director of Transport and Parking for the city of Milan. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you all for this award. I'm honored to receive this, and I think it's a greater honor to be the first with such a remarkable prestigious cities. I'm grateful to those who have contributed to achieve this goal. So I would like to thank and share this precious award with my colleague of the city of Milan, technicians at an authority, with my colleague of AMET, our technical company that supports in our way to develop mobility in Milan. And thank you also to our citizens, and in particular for car sharing operators that contributed to improve our services and to give to Milan a great service in sharing and car sharing, especially in this difficult period due to COVID-19 crisis. And so thank you, everybody. Some words about our policy. The history of car sharing in Milan starts in 2001 with a project of Lega Ambiente with just a few cars and just a few members. In 2013, it started to develop and increase the number of cars and the number of operators on our cities. In the next slide, you can see some data, the situation that illustrated the situation of our car sharing system in Milan. Can you please? Thank you. Thank you. As you see, our shared mobility in general takes not only car sharing, but also scooter, bike sharing, taxi sharing. We are applying to get taxi sharing very soon. and micro-mobility sharing. In this year, we have a situation. Could you please change the slide, please? Thank you. Here's the situation. I photographed for the situation on Milan. We have about over 3,000 cars, over 1 billion subscription, and an increasing number of electrical vehicles, due also to a policy in this sense that sustain the electrical aim, and so electrical vehicles. Our strategy for developing car sharing in Milan is based on 5 pillars or 5 policies. The first one is SUMP, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan. We have also some specific rules due to the pollution and ambiental system. We created also some mobility hubs. Now we are 17 mobility hubs, and we are trying to create a mobility as a service system, trying to develop an app to link every mode of a sharing system in Milan, and of course the engagement of stakeholders, citizens, politicians, and operator of car sharing first. So I said, first of all, the SUMP aim is sustainable, to improve a sustainable mode of urban mobility, and in this document, car sharing is one of the key policy, the key strategy. Could you please change the slide? Thank you. And you see, in the SUMP, the first pillar is to reduce dependency on private vehicles. So car sharing is the key action for this aim. The second policy is based on specific rules to regulate access to the city. They are called Area B and Area C, and the car sharing services are well integrated with this specific panel of rules. The third policy is the hubs, the mobility hubs we created in Milan. Is a physical infrastructure where all the shared mobility services are integrated and interconnected. You see, the public transport is in the same place with taxi, car sharing, charging systems, scooter sharing, bicycle parking, in only one place. The fourth policy is based. Could you please change the slide? Thank you. Is based on developing a system, a virtual infrastructure to bundle all transport system. We call it MAS, and we are trying to develop in this period an app easy and to use, but that can give to users the position of all sharing system in Milan. The fifth policy is, of course, the engagement. We have a strong commitment, political commitment, and we are trying to increase the engagement of stakeholders by debates and trying to meet the operators and citizens, the users of the service, and those who operate the service to develop new ideas, find solutions, and read the new needs of the citizens. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations, Helena. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm sorry I had a technical problem. My app just fell in the end of the presentation. I'm glad I got back just in time. So I'm sorry I couldn't hear the final words you said. But congratulations to Milan. It's very impressive. I could also go to Milan. Sorry, now I'm turning on the camera. Can you all see me? No, yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, sorry for the technical problem. But anyway, so going back, I also had a chance to go to Milan, and it's very impressive to see how you guys are dealing with all the shared mobility modes, and it's a very challenging situation for a city. And I was really impressed with the whole structure, framework that you managed to create. And you mentioned in the beginning that you were trying to that you're dealing with the integration of car sharing with other modes and even with, especially with public transport. Could you please tell us a bit more about how you're dealing with this in the municipality or the governance or the measures you're doing, please,
Yeah.
Helena?
Yeah, we are developing an app that can get the information of where every mobility sharing system is in the city, and this app is developed by the Agency of Public Transport. That means that the two systems are integrated, and of course we plan to develop this system just before, also before the COVID crisis, but after this crisis we accelerated this process, and now we are trying to contact each operator of sharing mobility to integrate the information on this app.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's very interesting. And Milan is doing a lot of ambitious measures also with the COVID and all these adaptations. So it's very impressive.
Yeah.
We can learn a lot from what you guys are doing. And in terms of car sharing itself, also, did COVID impacting more issues from the governance or the policy for car sharing specifically?
Municipality has some indication. Well, some operator has closed during the crisis period due to the crisis, to COVID, and the restriction of the government. But now all the operators are back, and we are trying to sustain them, to keep in touch with them, to create a sort of group that talk about problems and try to find solution to give citizens a good service, even if the crisis gave us some difficult situation, like for example, in cleaning cars, or in the fear that the people has to take in taking a car used by someone else before. So we are confident that by a new kind of policy shared with the operators, we are trying to improve and increase the car sharing, the sharing mobility in general, and also especially car sharing.
Yes, great, thank you. That's a big challenge.
Yeah.
We're all trying to learn from each other in this situation to see how we can move on with the post-COVID challenges. And you talked a little bit about the mobility hubs, or the integration, the hubs, physical hubs in Milan. So can you please tell us more about how in which phase you are, or the implementation, and how many you have, or explain behind it?
The mobility hubs are one of the key action in the SUMP, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan. For the moment, we have 17 areas in the city, and they are not all implemented. I mean, there is not all the services we are planning to put in that. But every year they increase in number. We are planning to open some other areas in the. We were planning to open new areas in 2020, and we are trying also to sustain the use of this area by sharing mobility systems, car sharing, bike sharing, and scooter sharing. First of all, car sharing.
Great, thank you. And what were the lessons that you learned from the development of these mobility hubs so far, particularly with the integration with electric vehicles, please?
The electric, I mean, our aims is a sustainable mobility. So developing electrical vehicles and systems to sustain the electrical vehicles is a way to sustain this kind of mobility. We see that the city of Milan has many charging areas for electrical cars, and hubs are very interesting, especially in the not in the center of Milan, to get people use that and improve also the buying electrical vehicles.
Okay, thank you, Elena. And I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No, thank you, Luciana.
Okay, sorry. So thank you so much for this discussion. For time issues, also we are going to have to move on to the next session. But I thank you and congratulate a lot, Milan, again for the work that you've been doing, and congratulations to all the other cities as well. So now we are going to move to an open discussion for Q&A, and I'm going to invite our presenters. So Philip Watu and Elena Sala, please to join us for a discussion, and then we are going to open the floor also for more questions. Then you can please send via chat. So, Philip and Elena, can you hear me? Are you there? Yes? Okay,
yes.
I can see.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, may I start with one question to both of us, please? What have car sharing operators done that has made this work that you've been developing to get all these initiatives easier on the city itself, and one thing you would advise operators to do when working with the city, please.
I don't know if I understand your question. Is the question is what?
Okay, I'll repeat the question. So
Thank you.
No worries, no worries. What have the car sharing operators done that has made all this work easier to get all these initiatives on the city itself? And one thing that you would advise to operators to do when they're working with the cities, like what would you recommend to the operators?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think operators in this year has increased their attention to the client, to the citizen, the users of the service. So I see the car sharing is a service that is used also because operators are very very clever and very attentive to the needs of the users. I think in these years I see improvement in this sense. What can I say for operators? I think in this phase after COVID, especially, it will be great to help the municipality and the citizen to find a different way to move instead of public transportation. In this period, we have some limits. We have to take some distances, and car sharing can help us and citizens in find a new way to move. Of course, in this sense, it will be important to distribute cars in places where maybe citizens need more this service, and they have to work in framework also for our sustaining mobility plans. And in this period, we can get more framework, maybe starting from mass.
Louisiana, I don't expect anything from the operators. They have to do their things. They have to make that things are done. They have to be client friendly. That's the only thing they have to do. They should be organized. That's all. And they should know what they have to do. We will, as a city, will try to make their work easier. And we have an how do you call it, an overarching organization, autodelen.net, that helps us and that advises us. They should give information to us. They should give their wishes to us. They should tell us how we can help them. But they don't have to do anything. They should be good and performing organizations. That's the only thing that's important.
That's great. Thank you.
But I think generally in Milan, for example, they are good performing and very, very, very clever and very attentive to the needs of the users. So maybe municipality can help, of course, especially in this critical period. Maybe everybody can do something more in this situation.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you. And just going back to Philip, please, could you tell us if there were any innovations in the car sharing frameworks during the COVID or planned for the post-COVID situation as well? Like we talked in Milan as well, please.
Not really. We try to help the organizations to survive this crisis, because it's really difficult for them. In Belgium, it was till now forbidden to have trips, and so it's also difficult for car sharing organizations. We try to support them, and it's important that they still keep on promote their business. And we have today we decided as a municipality to have another budget for promotion of car sharing, especially for COVID, especially for to cope with the effects of COVID, about 20,000 euro or something like that.
Good, thank you. And do you have a normal budget also for promoting car sharing apart from the COVID situation?
Yes, I told it in my presentation, about 50,000 euro a year for promotion. Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sorry. I think I had some audio issues.
You don't have to be sorry.
In the mirror, so thank you. And
what are some of the promotions that you do with that money?
You should ask to Jeffrey. Jeffrey is here. Jeffrey Matthijs.
Oh,
Jeffrey, tell us about it.
And what do I have to answer, Philippe?
What are you doing with our 50,000 euro?
Unfortunately, I don't travel with it nowadays. No, we are.
Say it.
We are doing a communication campaign, and we are trying to create a real Ghent feeling. So people should be proud to live in Ghent and also to do the car sharing thing. And that is what we are creating with an image and with several actions towards several target groups and towards several regions of the city. Basically, that's it.
thank you for complimenting, and hi, Jeffrey.
Hi.
That's very important, this relationship with the city, and that you have.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Jeffrey.
My pleasure.
Okay, and how important is the data the operators provide the city to guide policy and bring the community along?
Is it a question to me or to Elena?
To both. To both. Sorry. To both, please. Since we were talking about the contribution from the institution.
We are talking about data, and well, just 2 words about in this period. Of course, in this period we decreased the use of mobility services, decreased the shares services in particular decreased about the 80% about in COVID period. But I see in this last 2 weeks they are increased, and we are now about at the 60% of the normal use, the normal period. Especially in this period, I see people are using bike sharing and scooter sharing, and are increasing a lot, especially during this last week and in the weekend, of course. Normally, we have in a normal period, let's say before COVID, in Milan, we had about 15,000 trips each day. So these are our data.
Mm-hmm. And to what extent did people in Milan give up the private car as did Philip, please. I'm actually, sorry, to Elena to continue, please. To what extent did people in Milan give up the private car?
Yeah, we have by increasing the number of sharing system, we are trying to convince the people not to buy a private car, and we see it takes results, and also the number of, we have seen the number of private cars decreases a lot after the car sharing arrived in Milan, especially after 2013, and especially in the last few years, also some the rules, let's say area B and area C, are trying to not to improve buying private cars. In 2013, we had 56 about private car, each 10,000 inhabitants, and now we are 49, so we are under 50. I'm sorry.
Okay.
In Ghent, to try to convince people not to possess or buy a car, it's not so easy, because we are living in a region, Flanders, and in a country, Belgium, where to have the possession of a car is really promoted. In some factories in Belgium, and lots of factories in Belgium, they can pay people a salary with cars. They get cars for free as a kind of salary. And if you are in such an environment, it's very difficult to go against the flow. And we try to with promoting car sharing and to have our circulation plan and so on. In Ghent, it's happening that people make another choice, but it's not easy, because in the environment there is an opposite there are opposite dynamics.
Okay, thank you both for the answers. And now, because we are about to finish this part, just the last question to both of you, so we can wrap up this discussion. What is the largest blocker from accelerating car sharing growth faster in the city, hitting targets sooner? Or what is required to accelerate car sharing in any city? What would you recommend?
In everything I do, Luciana, I'm convinced that there is never one answer. There is never one strategy. There is never one instrument. You have to have many instruments, many things to do. You have to try to reach your goals by working on several instruments and several strategies. So there is no one answer. I think I know that in Ghent, it's the reserved parking spaces are very important. But if that's the only thing we should do, it will not accelerate car sharing. We have to do also the incentives for developers. We have to work on promotion and so on and so on. We have to on other plans. We have to work on the circulation plan, on circulation of cars and so on and so on. So there's no one answer. Sorry
Yes.
about that.
No, no worries, but it's true. It has to be all an integrated actions towards that, and having the politicians on board as well, which are a very significant part of the actors responsible for this, especially giving the example. So, and Elena.
I think defining rules is a way to accelerate a new way of mobility, and to create a large opportunity for citizens in terms of number of services, and integrated these services each other to give citizen a great service. I think it's the only way to improve and accelerate this changing.
Okay, so thank you both so much for your presentations and for the discussion. Congratulations again to all the cities, and we are going to move on now to finalize or to close our event. So I will hand over to Victoria Carter, the chair of the CSA Carsharing Association Board, to have the final word.
Thank you, and congratulations to all the finalists, and particularly to Ghent and Milan, waving jazz hands, and to all the car share operators that are on the line. A shout out to all of you, because I think we are making such an enormous difference to our planet, to our cities, to our communities, and to our people. Pam, thank you. What an extraordinary job that you and Sandra have done creating the Carsharing City Awards. And I think that the materials that all of us are going to get, cities and the operators, from this work is going to be enormously valuable globally. And that's quite an extraordinary thing to have achieved. So more jazz hands, everyone, to Pam and Sandra and all of the people behind you that have made today's event so successful. And please, for those of you who are not members of the Carsharing Association, do go and have a look at our website. And if you're not a car share operator, think about joining up. We do great work. Pam facilitates and organises some really good webinars, lots of good quality information. And for all of us that are doing whatever we can to improve our cities, I think you'll get great value from the Carsharing Association. So keep in touch with Pam and tell us what else you want. Thank you to everybody that's been on the call.
Thank you so much, Victoria. So can I ask everybody please to do a group wave so we can take a picture and congratulate everybody. So a massive thank you to everybody who attended and who participated, also sending questions. We were trying to feed to the presenters and the participants during the chat, and thank you so much for engaging with this. It was also great to see everybody in the crowd after some months of isolation. It's kind of a good contact. And for those who couldn't watch us today, please share the webinar video and the report. Reminded that there are 2 products from these, and please spread the word. And especially for the cities or the places who are inspired to start working with car sharing and could benefit from the ideas discussed here today. And a big thank you and congratulations to everybody involved in this historical award and to the organization of this virtual ceremony. It was really fun and a pleasure to work with you. Thank you for this opportunity and congratulations, because this was a very, very nice and important move. And finally, to close, I want to leave you with a big takeaway that the big challenge in this field is to develop car sharing systems that are sustainable for all the parts involved, financially and environmentally, for users, operators, and cities. And at the same time, they should be a viable option for those who renounce car ownership if or when they need to use a car. So today is an important day for car sharing and transport in general, because it was the first international award of this kind. that recognizes and celebrates cities that are trying to find solutions or find their own formulas to deal with this dilemma. And as a city planner, I know this is a real challenge for us planners as well. So the goal here is not to create a competition or maybe a healthy and friendly one, but it's mainly to inspire and incentivize more cities to start looking at car sharing in a different way, seeing the potential it can have to work as a tool to achieve the sustainability goals. And especially when cities and operators understand each other and try and work together. And that's it. And for those who got inspired and want to know more about these formulas, besides the fact that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, there are many cities that can teach great lessons, which could then be adapted or tailored to the local characteristics. And by the way, there will be more on this on the Carsharing Association conference next year. So I hope we can all see you there. So thank you again, stay safe, and see you in the beautiful and also inspiring city of Vancouver in 2021.